Welcome everyone. This is Sree from TechieTalksAI at Shogini.com. Today's topic is about Prisma or Prisma ORM. We will go step by step in understanding why we need an ORM mechanism when we deal with databases. Hi, welcome to TechieTalksAI. I'm Sree from Shogini. On this channel, we showcase hands-on demos and insights into AI automation and no-code tools. We have created several Make.com modules to simplify no-code automation for you. Subscribe and join us on this journey into the future of technology. Let's get on with the document that I have prepared. The link to the code and the documentation I will share in the description. But stay with me till then. This is not a very long video, but watching this will give you a complete clarity that you need to build database-driven applications. So Zero to CRUD Hero using Prisma ORM. What is an ORM? ORM stands for Object Relational Mapping. It's like a technique that connects your object-oriented code like JavaScript or Python to a relational database like PostgreSQL, MySQL, or SQLite. Imagine your database has tables like ID, title, content, published. In raw SQL, I hope all of you have studied SQL language. We have to understand the SQL language, like insert into post with title, content published with values, and so on. But in an ORM, you can instead write code that feels native to your own language. That is the beauty. We have an asynchronous call, await prisma.post.create, data colon, title, just pass the JSON key value pair. So ORM automatically connects to the database. It translates your code to SQL, executes it safely. We don't need to really worry about sanitizing. Returns type results as JavaScript objects. Why use an ORM instead of raw SQL? Challenge with SQL is repeated boilerplate queries. ORM method abstract CRUD operations: create, find many, update, delete. We will see them in our lab exercises. Risk of SQL injection. ORM escapes inputs automatically. So this is very important to secure your data and applications. No compile time safety. ORM provides type-safe models, especially with TypeScript. And schema mismatches between DB and code. ORM generates type model directly from the schema. So there is no field mismatch possibility. Hard to migrate DB changes. ORM includes migration tools for versioning schema. We will see that as well. Now, what makes Prisma special? Prisma is not just any ORM. It's a next generation TypeScript ORM that focuses on developer experience, performance, and safety. The key features: schema first. You define your DB structure declaratively in schema.prisma. Type safe client. Prisma auto generates a fully typed client at Prisma/client. We will see that how to generate this client. Migrations. Every DB change is version controlled via Prisma Migrate. We will see that as well in our lab exercises. Visual Studio Code integration. Prisma has syntax highlighting and autocomplete. Multi-database support. Prisma works with PostgreSQL, MySQL, SQLite, and MongoDB, etc. And Prisma is lightweight and fast. Prisma client runs as plain JavaScript, no runtime overhead. So this is our lab architecture. We have a Next.js based application that uses Prisma and PostgreSQL, all running within Docker containers. So anatomy of a Prisma schema. We have a model post. So here post is our traditional table name. And then we have the fields and the field types. Now let's look at some of the Prisma commands. We will do these during our lab exercises. npx Prisma generate. This will execute Prisma in the node environment and with the parameter generate. So what it will do is it will read the schema.prisma, generate a typed client library inside modules at Prisma/client. It lets you use it anywhere in your app. We just need to add this import line, and then we can call the client directly. If you want to search, you can call the find many method. No need to import any drivers, manage connections, or write raw SQL. Next is Prisma Migrate, versioning your schema. Every schema change, adding columns, labels, etc., is tracked with a migration. npx Prisma Migrate dev minus name add published flag. What it will do is it'll alter the table and add a new field. Under Prisma migrations folder, it will create a new migration and put the SQL command to make the change in the database. So it will generate the SQL, applies it to the database, and update this Prisma client type accordingly. All these this migrate command will do. Typical Prisma workflow summary is we will initialize, that is Prisma init, apply migrations, generate the client, and we also have a UI, very nice UI, Prisma Studio, where we can see the data, add, delete, etc. So that is the database UI, which is a web interface. Then seed data, npm run Prisma seed. It will populate demo data. So when you build your application, this comes handy. Prisma versus other ORMs. So here is a comparison, why Prisma compared to other ORMs. Just to explain Prisma ORM in a single line, Prisma ORM is the bridge that connects your Next.js code to your PostgreSQL database safely, efficiently, and elegantly, letting you focus on building features, not fighting SQL. Okay, let's get on with the lab exercises. There is a big difference in these lab exercises. These lab exercises are very unique. I will reveal what is happening behind the scenes so that you have a complete clarity on how Prisma works. And for this, I have created a single folder containing multiple tagged versions so that we can quickly switch from one version to another. We have 6 distinct labs. Each lab will only take very little time, but to reveal what is happening behind the scene, we will spend little extra time. This is the folder. We will execute git switch detach -f lab1. So what it will do is it will switch the current folder to our lab1 tag. How it works is git log one line minus all. If you see, we have lab 1, lab 2, lab 3, lab 4, 5, and lab 6. Currently, our current folder, that is head, is pointing to lab 1, base, Docker, and Next.js. So here there is nothing much to see. This is the basic Next.js framework. So let's do Docker Compose up. First thing is, in VS Code, let's install Prisma syntax highlighting. Okay, so that is done. Now we are in this folder, and the current project folder has a web folder, and on the root we have Docker Compose YAML, which has got the PostgreSQL database and Next.js application being launched from the web folder. So that web folder has our SRC that has the layout.tsx and page.tsx. That is our lab 1. So this is the plain lab 1 where we have a basic Next.js framework. Lab 2, we will add Prisma to. We will see what lab 2 does. So lab 2 will install Prisma into our project. So from this folder, we will quickly switch to lab 2. Git switch detach lab 2. We are now pointing to, our folder now points to lab 2. So again, we will down the containers and start this lab 2. I will provide the link to the code in the description. Let's refresh lab 2. Okay, so lab 2. And if you look at the code in lab 2, we have this Prisma folder, and inside Prisma we have a migrations folder, And we also have a schema. Okay, and the schema, we are defining one post table here with this ID, title, content, published. These fields are, so this is how we define a model. We don't need to know SQL commands at all. But what Prisma does when we do Prisma migrate, it'll create this migration.sql when you do migrate dev, so that we know the structure that is going to be created in our database. So this is the schema that is going to be applied in the database. So what we will do now is we will launch Prisma Studio at this stage itself so that we can actually see what is happening in the database. So from another terminal, we will launch this Prisma Studio. So here, this is the Next.js application which has Prisma installed. This is the container. Or this is the service that is running the container. And this is the npx that executes Prisma ORM. And this is the parameter for Prisma ORM to launch the studio on port 555. So if you browse port 555 now, we will have access to the Prisma Studio, which will give you access to the database. At this stage, we haven't got any database created. We will switch to lab 3, where we will start creating the database model and see how the studio has access to it. We will terminate the studio. We will terminate the Next.js application. We will switch to lab 3, start our application, and also start the studio. Okay, our lab 3 is up and running. If you browse port 3000, you will see the plain lab 3 web page. But what happened here is we have added the database access to Prisma. So that is what we're going to see. Now what we're going to see behind the scene, you will not find anywhere. See, in our web, which is the Next.js root folder, we have a migration folder which I'm deleting. Okay, so we have a Prisma folder. Within this Prisma folder, we have the model defined. Of course, database, environment, database URL, database underscore URL comes from the Docker Compose YAML file. So here database URL comes from this Docker file. So in the schema of Prisma, we have this model post. If you execute, what it will do is it will take that model and create corresponding table and fields in our database. And when we specify dev, it will also create a SQL file for us to refer to. So we will know what it has done. So it is saying, do we want to continue? All data will be lost. Okay, so it has created this migration.sql. And if we look at the studio, you will notice that we have a table with this, we have the post table with these fields. And if you look at the backend, we will notice that it has created Prisma Migrate has created a migrations folder, and inside the folder, this first migration folder is present. If you open that, you will find migration.sql commands. See here, our familiar SQL commands, create table, post. We haven't directly specified this SQL anywhere. Prisma ORM translated our schema, this ID, title, content, published, created it, updated it, into matching SQL command to be executed in our database. See, ID, title, content, published. Okay, and Prisma Studio is showing us this. What if we want to add a new field? Will you make corrections here? No, we will make changes in our post model. So what I will do is I will add, say, note, again, a string field. Okay, it can be empty. I will save it. So Prisma.schema I have modified. Now, if we run a migrate, we can even call it added nodes. That is just a name. Okay, so it has created another folder, and inside that folder there is a SQL file. If you look at the migrations folder, you will see there is a new migration folder, and see it is exactly doing what we need to do to alter a table. So this is the SQL command to alter table post, add column notes, text. Okay, so what we will do now is we will delete this, start fresh, delete the migrations folder, start fresh. We will remove the notes. Okay, and let's reset it back to our lab state. Okay, so this generate command has also created the Prisma client, which we can import and use in our Next.js applications. So let's confirm that our database has the fields. And now what we will do is we will seed. What that will do is we have a seed.ts file that has got a function main, and that is adding two data rows. See, hello world, first post created by seed script. Another is draft post. This one is not published yet. So we have a matching data which should get inserted into our database as our initial data. This is very useful when you build applications, and during the testing phase, we need data. We need the database populated. So, but how do we execute this seed? We will execute npm run prisma seed. Okay, it's saying seed done. Now what should happen? Will there be any change here? There won't be any change. We haven't migrated anything. We have inserted data into our database. So if you refresh our studio page, you should see two new rows got added. If you want to add one more row, so let's run seed again, and let's refresh. See here, two more rows got added. Got it? So if you want to have your own data included in here, we can replicate. Okay, so title, I will say Sree, and I am Sree. I edited that seed.ts, and I will execute Prisma seed, and we will have three more rows added to our database. See here, Sree, I am Sree. So this is the function of seed. But still, we haven't exposed this data to the front end. We are only talking to the database using Prisma command line, and using Prisma Studio. But that is not enough. We need the database accessible from the front end Next.js application. That is what we are going to see in our next lab. So if you have any question on this lab 3, please come by the comment section. Let us terminate the studio. Let's terminate the application containers. And if you see, we are currently pointing to lab 3. So let's switch to lab 4. And let's clear the containers and start. Let's also start the studio, and let's refresh our studio to see what is the state. It is giving error because this is a fresh application which has not been initialized. So what we will do is we will delete this migrations folder which existed from our previous experiments and do a fresh migrate. Okay. Now, if you refresh, you will notice that the table has been created. And we will now also seed the data. And if you refresh, those two rows have come. This is same as where we left in lab 3. So what is the added functionality in lab 4? We are exposing our application or the database or the CRUD operations via API endpoints. So here, curl, if you execute this, you should see the posts listed. Let's execute it here. See here, posts using HTTP GET method, we are able to get those two records from command line. We will also use Postman to access posts. Okay, so see here, hello world. This Postman is similar to this curl command line utility. Now we saw the database using Prisma Studio directly without going through our Next.js application. From command line using this API post endpoint, we have access using Prisma client accessing the database. And we have demonstrated the same thing from Postman desktop application. That also accesses raw endpoints just like curl. Clear? This endpoint can also insert data. So let's execute this command using HTTP post method with title hello content from lab 4. So, okay, so one row has been added. Let's look at it. See here, hello from lab 4 in Postman. If you send it, you will notice. See hello from lab 4. And in Studio, if you refresh, you will see that hello from lab 4 record has been added. So now earlier in seed, we could insert data directly using Prisma CLI from the backend. But here using the API endpoint exposed through our Next.js application, we are able to do CRUD operation. Okay. So this is the ideal stage for us to build our web interface. Are you getting where we are heading to? So we are going to build a web interface on top of this Prisma ORM framework. Clear? So we will leave lab 4. Control C to exit out of the studio. Control C to exit out of the Docker Compose and clear the containers, and then lab 5 Docker Compose up to start the lab 5. And let's also start the studio. And let's refresh to confirm that we have the data. We don't have the data, so this lab 5, let's migrate. Let's delete the migrations folder, which is there from the previous lab, and then run the migrate to create the fresh schema. Let's refresh to confirm that the database table has been created. And let's seed it. We are just readying the data. Okay, so we have got the data ready. But what is the point? This looks similar. And let's check if API endpoints are accessible. Yes, API endpoints are also accessible. And from command line also, our database is accessible through API endpoint through the Prisma client. The beauty is we now have a web interface. If you refresh, we have created a Next.js based basic web application with CRUD operations. So here title Sree and say I am Sree Prakash Neela content. Let's create it. See here, new row has been added. Let's look at it via the studio directly to the database. See here, new row. And from the curl also we'll check. See here, new row has come. And from Postman also let's check. Yes. So we have a complete front-end Prisma ORM based backend and the database talking to each other. So this looks complete, right? There is one more thing we can do, just a cosmetic improvement on this UI. That is our lab 6. So let's terminate lab 5. So let's switch to lab 6. And let's start the application. Let's launch the studio. And let's clear the migrations folder and do a fresh migrate. And let's seed the database. And let's confirm that database is accessible through Prisma Studio. Let's also confirm that API endpoints are working. Yes. And double check via Postman. Yes. Okay, so we have 2 rows. What do we need to check next? The UI. This UI has been beautified using Tailwind. See here, same application, but more attractive. And here we also have a search. We can search for published and instantly the changes are reflected. And here we can add a new record. TechieTalksAI. Create post. Okay, new post has been created and it says it is in a draft mode, which we can click here to make it published. And if you look at the data, our new row has come via Postman. Postman has access to it. And Prisma Studio. Yes, Prisma Studio also has the, so we have final complete CRUD where we can add, edit, record. We can also edit, click here to edit. Now what we'll do is we will quickly look at the SRC folder of our Next.js application. We have an API folder, and API/posts has got a square bracket ID. Remember the meaning of the square bracket? So these are dynamic routes. This ID can be replaced and you can pass the ID as a parameter through the URL. If you look at the file route.ts, you will notice that we have the GET request and we have a PUT request and delete methods programmed here to talk to Prisma client. And if you see here, lib/Prisma client is being imported. All these executions, if you see, prisma.post.delete, prisma.post.update to update. So this Prisma is the Prisma client. Here, prisma.post.find unique. These are all methods available in our Prisma client. We don't need to use any of the SQL commands. Clear? So that is the route.ts. And the page.tsx is our main application, which is been displayed here. Okay, this is page.tsx wrapped within layout.tsx. And we have covered in our Next.js 0 to Hero how the page.tsx and layout.tsx work in combination. So our focus of this video is not Next.js, it is how to talk to database using Prisma ORM without having to know SQL commands at all. To summarize, Prisma solves database headaches. Next.js gives you modern, fast backend routing. Tailwind makes the UI look consistently beautiful. And of course, Docker makes everything reproducible. This Zero to CRUD Hero workshop is exactly what companies use today for production application. Please give your valuable comments and suggestions, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe. See you. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Your support really helps. Have ideas or suggestions? Drop them in the comments. Let's build together. At Shogini, we offer expert no-code-make.com and Python AI automation consulting with ready-to-use modules to jumpstart your projects. Stay tuned and subscribe for more.